St. Paul writing a letter to the Corinthians. To this very hour we go hungry and thirsty. We're in rags. We are brutally treated. We are homeless. We work hard with our own hands. When we are cursed, we bless. When we are persecuted, we endure it. When we are slandered, we answer kindly. We have become the scum of the earth, the garbage of the world, right up to this moment. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, 11 through 13. Apparently, the Word of Faith preachers are, as Jimmy Swaggart's son, Donnie Swaggart, calls them, the prosperity pimps of our day, haven't read that verse. Or if they have, if it's been pointed out to them, they will just say, well, they have much more faith than St. Paul and the other apostles. This is why they're multimillionaires. So Jesse Duplantis is at it again. I made a video about him a while back when he told his followers that God told him he doesn't want them to ride commercial anymore. He wants to give him a jet, but not just any jet, the most expensive jet, specifically a $54 million jet. And he named the name. God specifically told him what jet. And of course, his followers provided the jet for him. They gave him the $54 million he needed because Jesse Duplantis said God told him. And when he was called on it by a lot of people, he said, I didn't ask for all the money. I just said God told me that he was going to provide, and the people provided for me. That's good old Jesse Duplantis, a master manipulator like all these guys are. But recently, he went even further than that. In a telethon to raise money. This is all these guys are doing whenever you see them, they're raising money. So Jesse Duplantis in a telethon was joking with Kenneth Copeland. He's like, yeah, I had this guy tell me, you're a millionaire. And I said, no, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. You're a millionaire. He said, no, I'm not. I'm a multi-millionaire. And they all had a good laugh. And I think Jesse Duplantis' net worth is up to about $30 million right now. And this is a guy who's never done anything. And just think about that verse I read where St. Paul said we've worked with our hands. This guy's never worked. Never mind with his own hands. He hasn't even had a desk job. This guy has done less work than a kid sitting home in his parents' basement playing video games. This guy is just a scoundrel. He's a scoundrel. $30 million preaching the gospel. But he said that, and these guys always steal from each other. None of these guys are original, because I heard Kenneth Copeland years ago say a similar joke that this guy was accusing me of being a millionaire. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm a billionaire. I don't know if that's true because these guys lie, as much as Joe Biden. Google says his net worth is $300 million in one spot. Another spot said $900 million. So who knows what these kind of money these guys got from preaching the gospel and manipulating Christians. But then Jesse Duplantis went on to say, I firmly believe the reason Jesus Christ hasn't returned yet is because people are not given enough money. Christians are just not given enough money. I swear, this is what this guy said. So in defense of my Protestant and evangelical brothers, of whom I spent most of my Christian life as, most Protestant evangelicals see right through these scoundrels, and just a small percentage of Christians that follow these guys, but it's large enough that they're millionaires, that they don't have to work. They fly around in $50 million jets, and they flaunt their wealth. They brag. They're very fleshly. Benny Hinn's nephew came out and wrote a book about Benny Hinn and said, it was nothing for them to spend $100,000 in a weekend, flying to France, staying in an upscale hotel, and just, buying $10,000 bottles of champagne and eating the best food. These guys are gluttons. They're just terrible human beings. Never mind terrible Christians. But like I said, most Protestants don't fall for this. And a lot of people say, oh, it's the charismatics. And it's not even a charismatic. Donnie Swaggart, who calls these guys prosperity pimps, great YouTube video on it. He calls them out by name. he's a Pentecostal, I had a Pentecostal charismatic background, and for Catholics who are not familiar, Pentecostals are normally like a denominational Assemblies of God, Church of God, and then charismatic is just someone who has the spiritual gifts, but they may be a Baptist. I called myself a Baptist-costal, and if I had the morals of Jesse Duplantis, I could have probably started a whole new denomination called the Baptist-costals and been worth $50 million. But yeah, so most charismatics and Pentecostals don't like these guys. And I feel bad, I've known some people that are in the faith movement, and they give money to these guys, and I try and show them the verses, and some people I've convinced, and some people I haven't, and the followers are actually good Christians, they think what these guys are telling them true, and on the flip side, I've heard one preacher say, they have a lot of faith because they're believing this, but the problem is they have faith in faith. They don't have faith in Jesus Christ, St. Paul had faith in Jesus Christ because he was considered garbage. He was homeless. And other verses besides this, he was whipped and beaten, yet he still proclaimed the gospel. He didn't live the pamper life like Jesse Duplantis, this soft soy boy from Louisiana. But what is the basic problem with the Word of Faith movement is the basic problem with all Protestantism. And this is why I left and came home to the Catholic Church. The bottom line is sola scriptura. That was one of the first things that I seen, the weakness, the Achilles heel of evangelicalism when I was challenged by smart Catholics. Just like, I used to talk to some, most charismatics and Pentecostals believe that you could walk away from the Lord, you could fall away, you can lose your salvation, and most Baptists believe you can't. Once saved, always saved, no matter what you do. If you, said, Jesus, come into my heart, and you meant it, you never got to walk with him again. When you die, you'll be saved. And a lot of my Christian friends would be like, how could these Baptists believe that? It's so unbiblical. So there's so many places where it says you could fall from grace. Like Jesus will cut you off. People that have fallen, it's all over the New Testament. Jesus, look at Jesus, chapter 14 and 15 talks about cutting people off and throw them in the fire. Just he cut off Israel, how much quicker will he cut us off? And it's so clear to so many Christians, Protestant Christians, that you could lose your salvation. But you have an equal amount of number that say, no, once saved, always saved. That's unbiblical. You're trusting in yourself if you believe you could keep your salvation. And I will tell them both. And I always play like the opposite. If I'm talking to a Baptist, I'll show them all the verses and I'll get them all nervous that they can lose your salvation. And if I'm talking to a charismatic that thinks you can lose your salvation, I'll show them all the verses the Baptists will say you can't. And you get confused because there's equal amount of verses for both. Just like there's verses that condemn drinking alcohol, and then there's verses that say wine is a gift from God, makes the spirit happy. And this is what I found. The Bible wasn't meant to stand alone. See, the first 4 centuries of the church, they were running around being persecuted. They had to meet in cemeteries, underground cemeteries called catacombs. The first 31 popes were killed. And when they became pope, they knew they were going to be killed. This is historical. And this isn't hard to find out what I'm about to tell you. They had not had a chance to decide which books were canonical, which books belong in the New Testament. They had letters. Of course, they had the letters from the apostles they passed around, but they also had other letters. And it wasn't until after Constantine legalized Christianity, like 50, 60 years after that, at the Catholic Council of Rome in 382, where the bishops of the Catholic Church looked at all the letters and writings they had and decided, based on the apostolic tradition, the sacred tradition passed down from the apostles for these 382 years, based on that knowledge, they were able to decide, led by the Holy Spirit, which books belonged in the New Testament. And there were some letters they threw out that people thought belonged, like the Gospel of Thomas, letters from St. Clement, They said, no, these are the letters that are inspired by God, and they created the New Testament. They edited the New Testament, so to speak, as Timothy Gordon eloquently said. The Catholic Church had to edit the books in the Bible. They had to decide which books belonged in the Bible. And all the Protestants agree with us that these books, Martin Luther disagreed about James and Hebrews and Revelations and Jude, but every other Protestant agrees that the books in the New Testament are the canonical books inspired by God. But you needed an infallible source to decide which books would be in the Bible. Otherwise, the Bible would be fallible, right? Well, God told St. Peter in Matthew 16, 18, and 19 that he would give him the authority to speak infallibly. And the church was given the gift of infallibility on matters of faith and morals according to the Bible. And the church infallibly decided which books would be in the Bible. And the church, over the 2,000 years that Christ created the Catholic Church, has given us a theology and has given us doctrines and dogmas like the Trinity. And we can be assured of our faith because we have an infallible teacher that can interpret the Bible for us. And of course, we're encouraged as Catholics to read our Bibles every day and let God speak to us on a personal level. But on deep doctrinal issues, if there's a disagreement, we know what the church has taught for 2,000 years. So no one could just pop up a charismatic, funny. I mean, Jesse Duplantis could be an actor. That's probably the only thing else he could do because he can't work with his hands. He's a softie, a soft little soy boy. But he could probably be an actor. He's a good liar. So anybody could just pop up charismatic and start a church and decide, okay, this or that. And this is why in Protestantism you have 42,000 different denominations. But the Holy Catholic Church, as all these denominations, you see Baptists are shrinking in size, Lutherans are shrinking in size, Episcopalian, all these man-made churches are losing members. The Catholic Church is steady. From the time of Jesus Christ till now, it's been a steady climb. In fact, from 2010 to 2020, the Catholic Church has grown from 1.2 billion members to 1.3 billion members. We're not going anywhere. When all these other churches fall away and new ones pop up, the Catholic Church will be the same as it was in the first century, as it was in the second century. It will remain the same until Jesus Christ comes back for us. So pray for Jesse Duplantis, because I believe he's not heading to a good place. So pray for his repentance and that he becomes a true disciple of Christ and has true faith and gives all his money away to the poor, like Jesus told the rich young ruler. God bless and stay Catholic.